The Beverly Hills Hotel glowed with a distinctive pink hue that evening, transformed for the exclusive afterparty celebrating the monumental success of the Barbie movie. Pink and white decorations adorned every corner, champagne flowed freely, and the who's who of Hollywood mingled beneath crystal chandeliers. At the center of it all was Margot Robbie, radiant in a custom pink Chanel gown that perfectly embodied the iconic doll she had brought to life on screen. Tom Ackerley watched his wife from across the room with undisguised admiration. Standing by the bar with a glass of whiskey, he couldn't help but feel a surge of pride as she worked the room. As Margot's husband and producing partner, he had witnessed firsthand the dedication she had poured into this role. Their production company had taken an enormous risk with this project, but tonight proved that the risk had paid off spectacularly. "Quite a night, isn't it?" said a voice beside him. Tom turned to find one of the studio executives smiling at him. "Beyond anything we imagined," he replied, raising his glass. "Here's to taking chances." "And to your wife," the executive added. "She's the reason everyone's here. You must be incredibly proud." Tom nodded, watching as Margot laughed at something someone had said. "More than I can express." The night had been a whirlwind. Critics were calling the film revolutionary, box office numbers were shattering expectations, and the cultural impact was already evident. Tom and Margot had worked side by side for years building their production company, LuckyChap Entertainment, taking chances on projects they believed in. This success felt like validation of everything they had worked toward. As Tom made his way through the crowd to join his wife, he noticed a commotion near the entrance. The crowd parted as Leonardo DiCaprio arrived, fashionably late as usual. Leo had been one of Margot's first major co-stars when she broke into Hollywood with The Wolf of Wall Street, the film that had catapulted her to stardom over a decade ago. Tom knew the story well, how a relatively unknown Margot had famously improvised a scene with Leo, slapping him during an audition when it wasn't in the script. That boldness had landed her the role that changed her life. He'd heard Margot tell the story countless times in interviews, always with the same sparkle in her eyes. Leo spotted Margot almost immediately and made his way toward her, arms outstretched for a hug. Tom watched as his wife's face lit up with genuine delight. "The woman of the hour," Leo exclaimed, embracing Margot warmly. "You've outdone yourself this time." "Leo." Margot beamed, returning the hug. "I didn't know you were coming." "And miss celebrating the biggest movie of the year?" "Not a chance," Leo replied. "This is extraordinary, Margot. Truly extraordinary." Tom approached them, extending his hand. "Good to see you, Leo." "Tom, great to see you too. Congratulations on this success, LuckyChap is becoming a force to be reckoned with." Leo's handshake was firm, his smile camera-ready. For the next hour, Tom found himself increasingly on the periphery as Margot and Leo fell into animated conversation. They reminisced about their time on set together, discussed the changing landscape of Hollywood, and laughed about inside jokes from years past. Tom knew it was innocent, industry colleagues catching up, but something about the easy rapport between them stirred an unexpected feeling in his chest. He excused himself to get another drink, watching from a distance as Leo casually draped an arm around Margot's shoulders while introducing her to another industry heavyweight. "They have quite the chemistry, don't they?" observed a woman beside him at the bar. It was Greta Gerwig, the director of Barbie. "They always did," Tom replied, trying to keep his tone neutral. Greta studied him carefully. "You know, Margot talked about you every single day on set." "Every single day?" Tom smiled faintly. "Did she?" "Constantly." Tom thought this line was brilliant. Tom helped me understand this character beat. Wait until Tom sees this scene. It was actually quite annoying, Greta laughed. Everyone on set knew you were her rock. The knot in Tom's chest loosened slightly. "I appreciate you telling me that." "Just stating facts," Greta shrugged, taking her drink from the bartender. "By the way, I'm serious about that project we discussed last month. When you and Margot are ready, I'd love to develop it with LuckyChap. We'll set up a proper meeting next week, Tom promised. As the evening progressed, Tom found himself drawn into conversations with various directors and producers, many eager to work with LuckyChap following the Barbie success. Yet his attention kept drifting to Margot and Leo, who were now joined by several other A-listers in what appeared to be an increasingly lively discussion. Leo was in storytelling mode, gesturing dramatically while the group hung on his every word. Margot's laugh rang out above the ambient noise, that full-bodied, genuine laugh that Tom loved so much. He watched as Leo whispered something in her ear that made her playfully swat his arm. "You're staring," came a voice, and Tom turned to find Emma Mackey, who had played one of the Barbies in the film. "Just checking on my wife," Tom replied with a self-deprecating smile. Emma hummed knowingly. The Leo effect. "Don't worry, everyone feels it. He has that way of making whoever he's talking to feel like the most important person in the room." "It's a talent," Tom conceded. "Margot has it too," Emma pointed out. "It's why they're both so magnetic on screen." Tom nodded, taking another sip of his drink. He normally wasn't the jealous type, it was an occupational hazard in their industry, after all. Margot had worked with countless attractive leading men over the years. But something about Leo had always represented a particular kind of Hollywood magic to Margot. He was her co-star from that first big break, the Oscar winner who had validated her talent before anyone else had recognized it. The party was reaching its peak when Tom decided to step outside onto the terrace for some fresh air. The Los Angeles night was warm and clear, the city lights twinkling below like earthbound stars. He loosened his bow tie slightly and took a deep breath. "Escaping your own party," came a familiar voice. Leo had followed him outside, 2 glasses in hand. He offered one to Tom. "Thought you might need this." Tom accepted the drink with a nod of thanks. "Just needed some air. It's been a long road to get here." "I can imagine," Leo said, leaning against the balustrade. "Margot told me about all the studios that passed on this project initially. Said you were the one who kept believing even when doors kept closing." Tom glanced at him, surprised. "She said that?" "She credits you with pushing this across the finish line," Leo confirmed. "Said your faith in the project never wavered, even when hers did." They stood in silence for a moment, looking out at the city. "You know," Leo continued, "when Margot first worked with me, I knew immediately she was going to be special. That kind of raw talent comes along maybe once in a generation. But talent alone doesn't create the career she's built." He turned to look at Tom directly. "That comes from having the right people around you, making the right choices. Building something meaningful." Tom felt a complex mix of emotions, appreciation for the recognition, but also a lingering discomfort he couldn't quite shake. "Must be challenging sometimes," Leo added, "being married to someone who commands that level of attention." "It has its moments," Tom admitted. Leo nodded thoughtfully. "I've seen many relationships in this industry fall apart under much less pressure than what you two navigate. Yet you've built something rare, not just a marriage but a creative partnership that's changing Hollywood." The sincerity in Leo's voice was unexpected. Tom studied him, trying to reconcile the man before him with the Hollywood icon who had unwittingly triggered his insecurity. "Can I be honest with you, Tom?" Leo asked, lowering his voice. "I envy what you and Margot have built together." Tom raised an eyebrow. "You're Leonardo DiCaprio. What could you possibly envy?" Leo gave a rueful smile. "A true partnership. Someone to build a life with, not just a career." He looked back toward the party. "I've had success, sure. But what you two have created together, professionally and personally, that's the real achievement." Before Tom could respond, the terrace doors opened and Margot appeared, slightly breathless. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you too." She approached them, slipping her arm through Tom's. "What are you doing hiding out here?" "Just getting some air and catching up," Tom said, feeling the weight on his chest begin to lift as she leaned against him. "Well, they're about to make the official toast, and I need my two favorite men by my side," Margot declared, pulling them both toward the doors. Leo raised his glass. "To the woman of the hour." "Actually," Margot corrected him, looking up at Tom with a softness in her eyes, "to partnerships. I wouldn't be standing here without this man." As they rejoined the party, Tom felt Margot squeeze his hand. "Everything okay?" she whispered. "You disappeared." "Everything's perfect," he assured her, realizing as he said it that it was true. Later that night, as the crowd began to thin, Tom found himself in conversation with the studio head when he felt a hand on his arm. It was Leo again. "I'm heading out," Leo said, "but I wanted to say goodbye and congratulate you both again." He lowered his voice. "And Tom, I meant what I said earlier. What you two have built together is special. Don't lose sight of that." After Leo left, Margot made her way back to Tom's side. "What was that about?" "Just industry talk," Tom said lightly, not wanting to reveal the full nature of their conversation. Margot gave him a knowing look. "Was he charming you like he charms everyone?" "Leo has that effect on people." "Actually," Tom replied thoughtfully, "he was surprisingly genuine." The party continued to wind down, but the studio had arranged for a private room where the core team could relax away from the spotlight. As producers, Tom and Margot joined Greta and a few others in the more intimate setting. Sitting beside Margot on a plush sofa, Tom felt her lean against him, fatigue finally catching up with her now that the adrenaline of the evening was waning. "What a night," she murmured, resting her head on his shoulder. "You were amazing," he told her softly. "Everyone was captivated by you." She looked up at him with tired eyes. "Including you?" "Especially me." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Always." Margot shifted to look at him more directly. "I saw you talking with Leo outside. Everything okay?" Tom hesitated, then decided on honesty. "I think I was feeling a bit sidelined earlier. Watching you with him." Understanding dawned in Margot's eyes. "Oh, Tom." She took his hand in hers. "Leo represents a chapter in my career, but you." She paused, searching for the right words. "You're my whole story." "I know that," he assured her quickly. "It was just a moment of insecurity. Nothing serious." Margot studied him, then smiled softly. "You know what Leo said to me tonight? He said I was lucky to have found someone who sees me, really sees me, not just the person on magazine covers." Tom felt a rush of warmth at her words. "He's right about that part. I do see you. I know you do. That's why I married you." She leaned in to kiss him gently. "Not everyone finds that, especially not in this industry." The room had grown quieter as people drifted into smaller conversations or checked their phones. Greta caught Tom's eye from across the room and raised her glass in a silent toast. "We should probably think about heading home soon," Margot said with a yawn. "I'm exhausted." "Whatever you want," Tom replied. "It's your night." She shook her head. "It's our night. Everything I've accomplished, everything we're celebrating tonight, we built it together." As they eventually said their goodbyes and made their way to the waiting car, Tom reflected on the evening. The momentary jealousy he had felt now seemed trivial in the face of what he and Margot had built together, not just a successful production company, but a partnership based on mutual respect and shared dreams. In the back of the car, Margot kicked off her heels with a sigh of relief and curled up against him. "What Leo said was true, you know," she murmured sleepily. "About you being the one who never lost faith in the Barbie project. When everyone else thought it was a ridiculous idea, you saw the potential." "We saw it together," Tom corrected her. "That's how we've always worked best." She agreed, her eyes drifting closed. Partners. As the car wound its way through the Los Angeles hills toward their home, Tom gazed at his sleeping wife and thought about Leo's words on the terrace. Perhaps the real magic wasn't found in the dazzling spotlight of fame, but in the quiet moments like this, building something meaningful with someone who chose you, again and again, day after day. The glamour of Hollywood was intoxicating, but it was transient by nature. What he and Margot had created together, both professionally and personally, that was the true achievement. And no momentary insecurity or fleeting jealousy could diminish that reality. When they arrived home, Tom gently woke Margot. Half asleep, she leaned on him as they made their way inside. The house was quiet and dark, a peaceful contrast to the evening's festivities. "We should celebrate," Margot mumbled as she sat on the edge of the bed, struggling with the clasp of her necklace. Tom moved behind her to help. "I think we just did, love. Quite extensively." "No," she turned to look at him as the necklace came free. "Just us. Tomorrow. No industry people, no press. Just Tom and Margot, celebrating what we've built." "That sounds perfect," he agreed, hanging her necklace on the jewelry stand. As they got ready for bed, the trappings of Hollywood, the designer clothes, the perfect makeup, the carefully cultivated public personas, were shed one by one. In their place remained just two people who had chosen to build a life together, navigating an industry known for its fickleness with a partnership that had proven surprisingly steadfast. Tom thought again of his conversation with Leo and felt a sense of gratitude replace the earlier discomfort. Perhaps Leo had been right, what he and Margot had built together was indeed something to be envied, something rare and precious in their world of smoke and mirrors. As they lay in bed, Margot already drifting back to sleep beside him, Tom realized that the evening's brief shadow of jealousy had actually illuminated something important. The solid foundation they had built together was stronger than any momentary insecurity. "Tom?" Margot murmured sleepily. "Yes? Thank you for being my partner in all of this. I couldn't do any of it without you." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Wouldn't want to be anywhere else." As Margot fell asleep, Tom lay awake a little longer, thinking about the night's events. The jealousy he had felt earlier now seemed like a distant shadow, insignificant against the warm reality of their partnership. Perhaps that was the true measure of their success, not the accolades or the box office numbers, but the life they had built together, supporting each other's dreams while creating new ones of their own. In an industry built on illusion, they had found something real. And that, Tom reflected as he finally drifted off to sleep, was worth more than all the spotlights in Hollywood. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow across their bedroom. Tom woke first, careful not to disturb Margot, who was still deep in sleep after the late night. He slipped out of bed quietly and made his way to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. As he moved around the kitchen, brewing coffee and slicing fresh fruit, his phone buzzed with notifications. The headlines were already rolling in about last night's party: Barbie breaks records, Robbie's pink triumph, and inevitably, a few tabloids focusing on Margot and Leo's reunion. Tom shook his head with a small smile, no longer bothered by the speculation. Last night had reminded him of what was real and what was simply Hollywood noise. He heard Margot's footsteps before he saw her, and turned to find her in the doorway wearing his t-shirt, hair tousled from sleep. "You're up early," she said, accepting the cup of coffee he offered her. "Thought I'd surprise you with breakfast. Part 1 of our private celebration." Margot smiled, leaning against the counter. "I was thinking about what you said last night. About feeling sidelined when I was talking with Leo." Tom waved a hand dismissively. "It was nothing. Just a momentary thing." "No, it wasn't nothing," she insisted gently. "Your feelings matter to me. Always." She took a sip of her coffee. "You know, when I first came to Hollywood, I was so starstruck by everyone. Leo represented this unattainable level of success that I could only dream about." She set down her cup and moved closer to him. But what I've built with you, this life, our company, our partnership, it's what I'm most proud of. The films will come and go. The awards might gather dust. But this. She gestured between them, this is what matters. Tom pulled her into an embrace, kissing the top of her head. I know. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Later that morning, as promised, they embarked on their private celebration. They drove down the coast with the windows down, far from the Hollywood bubble, finding a secluded beach spot they discovered years ago before Barbie had been anything more than a wild idea. As they walked along the shore, hand in hand, Margot talked excitedly about their next projects, not the ones already in headlines, but the quiet dreams they'd been nurturing together. Ideas too fragile yet for studio meetings but perfect for sharing here, where it was just the two of them against the vast horizon. You know what Leo told me last night that I didn't mention? Margot said as they sat watching the waves. He said he wished he'd had the courage years ago to build something like LuckyChap, to take creative control the way we have. Tom raised an eyebrow. Leonardo DiCaprio envious of us? That's something. Not of our fame or success, Margot clarified. Of our partnership. He said most people in this industry only form alliances of convenience, but what we have. She squeezed his hand, is the real achievement. As the sun began to set, casting long golden rays across the water, they made their way back to the car, planning a quiet dinner at home away from prying eyes and expectations. The real celebration wasn't about box office numbers or critical acclaim. It was about this, two people who had found each other in an industry often known for its superficiality, building something authentic together. Something that would outlast any film's release or award season. Back at home, as they prepared dinner together in comfortable synchronicity, Tom reflected that this, the quiet moments far from the spotlight, was where their true story unfolded. Not on red carpets or at star-studded parties, but in the spaces in between, where they were simply Tom and Margot, partners in every sense of the word. And no amount of Hollywood glamour could ever compare to that. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoy this video and learned a lesson. I would be grateful for your likes. Also don't forget to subscribe and comment on the video. See you soon.